One of the biggest pieces of overcoming social anxiety is the first step of it is to build a level of distress tolerance just in social situations. There is a sense of pressure that people often feel in social situations to perform. And so performance anxiety and social anxiety tend to overlap quite a bit. And so one of the things that I'm generally helping people who are struggling with social anxiety figure out is, one, nobody in the social context is paying as much attention to you as you are. So the idea that people are paying the same amount of attention or more attention to you than anybody else is a cognitive distortion for the most part in most situations. That's the first piece, is if you screw up and then you draw your own attention to it and that's what you pay attention to, that is what's going to draw attention to it. But most people, we screw up in social situations all the time and people don't pick up on it and people don't realize it. So that's part one. Two is then building up distress tolerance, building up distress tolerance, realizing that all in the same space. And then it's very similar to how I talk about normal anxiety, which is where you can be anxious in a social situation and still make decisions and choices about how you're going to interact in a given context. And I think the important thing also for people to realize is, one, you cannot control the reaction that people have to you, no matter how hard you try. The only thing you can control in a given interaction is the way that you show up to it. And so if you spend a whole bunch of time trying to take control of how people respond to you, you are already setting yourself up for failure. Because one, you're going to show up in that space inauthentically because you're showing up trying to mitigate whatever reaction you're worried about. At the same time that that's happening, you're preparing for a reaction that is less than desirable, and so then you come to expect it. And so if people are not responding the way that you think they're going to, that's going to make you anxious, so that's only going to contribute to a further spiral. So it's really kind of doing some selective focus on you and what you are bringing to an interaction, practicing those skills, sometimes in therapy, practicing those skills, building the distress tolerance so that you may still feel anxious, but you still interact in the way that you want to, and then reading the feedback from those interactions as data as opposed to as interpretation. So did the person continue talking with you? Yes, they did. They had the control to leave that interaction if they really didn't want to do it, and they did not, which suggests that you were probably doing something right. So it's all about kind of redirecting our focus in a social context. That's the general blanket explanation. The way that changes depends on the person and the context and what kind of social interactions that they're struggling with. But in general, that's how we're working through social anxiety. It's a good question, El Chat. I hope that makes sense.